23-year-old Lindsay Hawker went missing on March 24, 2007, in the Japanese city of Chiba. What police discovered in the days that followed was not only upsetting, but it also sparked a 3-year manhunt. Lindsay Hawker was a native of the English city of Coventry. She was a beloved member of her community and was born on December 30, 1984. She excelled academically, earning a first-class honours biology degree from the University of Leeds in 2006. Prior to starting her master's program, Lindsay made the decision that she would take a year off to travel. She enrolled in the Nova teaching program that October and departed for the stunning nation of Japan. Following his arrival in Japan, Lindsay was given the district of Koiwa in Tokyo's Edogawa. She moved in with 2 other Nova school teachers who quickly became her friends and lived a little further east in a place called Chiba where the rent was less expensive. Lindsay made care to stay in touch with her family and boyfriend using Facebook, WhatsApp, Skype, texts, and phone calls while she was abroad in Japan. Everything seemed to be going well, and she was enjoying her time in Japan. In March 2007, 6 months into her stay, Lindsay had an unusual incident. She took the train back to Chiba Station, where she typically parked her bicycle, after completing her day's work. This didn't sit right with Lindsay because she was adamant he wasn't one of her students, so she politely left the conversation and got on her bicycle to ride back to her apartment. As she was unlocking her bike, she was approached from behind by a man who greeted her with the words, "You are my English teacher." When she picked up her pace, the man began to follow her and then raced after her. He kept asking questions such, "Where are you from?" as she made an effort to move away from the man. Quote, "And, where did you attend school?" As she eventually stopped her bike outside of her apartment, Lindsay was once more accosted by the man because she was unable to get rid of him. Because he thought he needed some assistance with the language, he inquired if she would be ready to teach him English. Lindsay declined because she was too busy with her work and hardly had any free time to herself. He offered to meet in a public cafe so she would feel comfortable and he would pay generously by the hour. Though he appeared disappointed, the man accepted her response. Then, after tracking her down, he begged her for a glass of water since he was thirsty. Lindsay reluctantly consented and allowed him inside. She wanted to show that she didn't live alone so the man wouldn't be deterred if he was planning anything, and she also wanted her housemates to see his face in case it came up again in the future. Once inside, he once more requested lessons from Lindsay and this time offered to pay her 3,500 yen, $32, per hour. The easy money he was providing this time made Lindsay accept, and she made plans to meet him at a coffee shop a few days later. The man took out a pen and a scrap of paper and began scribbling before turning around and walking away. He gave her the message, and she received it. Tatsuya, a 28-year-old from Ichikawa who had relocated to Chiba, was a man. He aspired to become a doctor like his father, but as he was unable to continue his education, he decided to settle for a degree in horticulture from the University of Chiba in 2005. However, after receiving his diploma, he never tried to obtain employment and instead relied on his parents' stipend of 100,000 yen, $920, every month. He had never been in trouble with the authorities before, but he had previously been a suspect in a theft and assault charge. Tatsuya is said to have assaulted a woman on the street during a robbery, but his father settled the case out of court by giving the victim 1 million yen, $10,000. Tatsuya was frequently characterized as a recluse with a fitness fetish. He would frequently cycle more than 25 kilometers each day at his neighborhood club. In a nearby coffee shop, Lindsay and Tatsuya conduct their first lesson on Saturday, March 24, 2007. Lindsay didn't appear uncomfortable, but she was making an attempt to maintain distance between the two of them, and you can see her stepping away from him whenever he came too close on the CCTV footage of them speaking together in the line to buy a drink. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary during the lecture, which lasted just over an hour. After the class, Tatsuya admitted that he had forgotten to bring the cash to pay her and invited her to drop by his apartment to pick up her payment because he only lived a half-mile away. Lindsay concurred, and the two of them got into a taxi. When Lindsay arrived at Tatsuya's house, she asked the driver if he would mind waiting as she would soon be leaving for work that afternoon. The driver agreed, and Tatsuya and Lindsay walked into the structure. She was supposed to return after a while, but when she didn't, the driver assumed she had changed her mind and left. After several hours of Lindsay not showing up at home, her roommates decided to call the police and report her missing, but they didn't take it seriously. Lindsay hadn't shown up for work that afternoon either. Her employer, Nova Teaching School, notified her parents in England when she failed to report to work on that Monday. The police were once more contacted once they realized something was awry. When police questioned Lindsay's roommates during the initial phase of their investigation, they informed them of the strange man she had a lesson with that day and gave them the sketch of Lindsay that included his information. On Monday, March 26, at 5:40 p.m., 2 police officers were sent to Tatsuya's flat. Nobody answered the door when they knocked. Tatsuya's neighbors, on the other hand, were gracious enough to let them onto their balcony so they could peer into his living room. Even though there were no lights on, it appeared that someone was inside. It looked strange to them that his bathtub had been moved from his bathroom to his balcony. Assuming Lindsay was being kept hostage at Tatsuya's apartment, the officers quickly requested reinforcements. 9 officers arrived 3 hours later, and they immediately began making plans for a raid on his house. Tatsuya, carrying a rucksack and standing barefoot, opened the door as they were getting ready to charge the apartment. He stormed past all 9 of them by taking advantage of the officers' dismay. They succeeded in stealing his rucksack in an effort to apprehend him, but Tatsuya managed to escape and vanish into the night. They discovered Lindsay Hawker's naked body in the bathtub on the balcony after inspecting Tatsuya's residence. She was entirely submerged under a layer of earth and sand applied by him. Her right hand, which was protruding from the tub, was the only visible part of her. After further examination, they discovered that Tatsuya had covered it with flower seed, pretended it was a flower bed, and added a decomposition agent to the soil combination. He had completely removed Lindsay's hair. Police also discovered numerous women's wigs scattered throughout the lodging, which led them to believe Tatsuya was a cross-dresser. When this became known, rumors that he killed her to use her hair for a wig began to spread, but this was never proven. The following morning, Tatsuya was listed as a wanted person throughout all of Japan. Police put out wanted posters and repeatedly featured his face on newscasts, but nothing came of it. In case Tatsuya was out in drag and nobody had recognized him, authorities released altered images of him wearing wigs after a few weeks with no leads. Once more, nothing materialized, and the trail was now dead. 2 months after Lindsay's passing, her parents traveled to Japan to help spread the word about the need to find Tatsuya because they thought the police were becoming complacent in their inquiries. With bottles of whiskey, Her father even made friends with Japanese mafia members in an effort to find his daughter's killer. The Japanese police came under scrutiny from the media, who began to cast doubt on their abilities. How did 9 police officers who were about to raid a man's home fail to capture him? Why did it take them a month to interview important witnesses? Did they realize that their wanted poster was 7 years old? When the police and Lindsay Hawker's family began to dispute in public, both British and Japanese media became heavily involved. Tatsuya had traversed the majority of the nation during this time, from the island of Okinawa in the south to the city of Aomori in the north. Tatsuya resided in Osaka, which is located 250 miles west of Tokyo, from the years 2008 to 2009. He was sleeping in internet cafes, working construction jobs to make ends meet, and saving up any money he could to have plastic surgery to change the appearance of his face. However, he had already altered his appearance through self-mutilation. He had used a knife to remove moles from his face, scissors to remove a portion of his lower lip, and a needle and thread to change the form of his nose. Police increased the cash reward from 1 million yen, $10,000, to 10 million yen, $100,000, in the summer of 2009, along with additional photoshopped images claiming that he had likely undergone plastic surgery. A plastic surgeon called the police in October 2009 to report that he thought he had recently worked on Tatsuya and that he had taken a before and after picture that had been quickly made public. This worked because a co-worker Tatsuya was working with recognized him and called the police from the construction site. He had done this many times before when he felt the police were getting too close. But this time he was in a panic and planned to run to Okinawa and hide out in an abandoned bunker on one of its isolated islands. On November 10, 2009, Tatsuya made a break for the ferry port in Osaka while attempting to maintain composure. He could have escaped once more if he had managed to go 3 days without being recognized on the ship. Unluckily for him, a port employee recognized him and told security to call the police. He realized he had been caught when the police arrived and questioned his name, responding, "Yes, that is me, Tatsuya Ichihashi," and was immediately taken into custody. He was first accused of dumping a body. Later, he was charged with 2 additional crimes, rape and murder. The trial for Tatsuya Ichihashi started on July 4, 2011. He quickly revealed that he lured Lindsay into his home, raped her, then strangled her out of fear that his neighbors would overhear her scream and bring him to justice due to the nature of the crime. The majority of the media coverage at the time focused on how the legal system would punish him because Japan still applied the death penalty, even though few lone homicides result in that outcome. There were many voices calling for Tatsuya to receive the death penalty, but on July 21, 2009, he was instead given a life sentence with a minimum of 10 years in prison before parole became an option. Tatsuya challenged his sentence in 2012, and during the appeal, his attorneys said that the death was an accident since he was only trying to block off Lindsay's screaming. The original sentence was upheld by the Tokyo High Court. Tatsuya, however, persisted in tormenting the Hawker family by chronicling his period on the run in a book from his prison cell. He offered Lindsay's parents the royalties once the book became well known in Britain and sold over 100,000 copies, but they declined. He is still behind bars in 2022 because the book was so popular that a movie based on it called I Am Ichihashi: The Journal of a Killer was made.